We continue our conversation now with Utah Representative Chris Stewart. Representative, thanks for joining us for the show. We appreciate it.
It's good to be with you. Thank you.
Before we move to the future in the year that we are expecting, I want to take a look back real quick. It's been a very divisive and even destructive 8 months here in our country. What is it that led up to the events that we have seen unfold from your perspective?
Oh my gosh, Glenn, it's hard to look back, isn't it? I mean, the last several years in many ways are a couple years that many of us would like to move on from. To answer your question, I want to do it carefully because in even answering a question, you don't want to appear like you're pointing fingers or trying to just blame the other side. But I mean, here I think is the answer. It's a combination of a couple things. One is we had a president who had a way of speaking, and he was divisive. He was braggadocio, and he had a way of offending people that many of us, especially here in Utah, just found hard to accept. And on the other side, we had the same type of rhetoric, the same type of divisiveness, the same type of name calling. And look, I just think there's plenty of blame to go around. I really want to put that behind us. I think all of us do. I think everyone's exhausted by it. And I think many of us just want to try to move on and try to be more positive, more optimistic about our relationships, about the future of the country, and about things that we can do together.
Representative, I want to dig a little more into the words and actions of the president, though. We have seen recently both leaders McCarthy and McConnell coming out. Leader McCarthy saying Trump does bear responsibility for violence. McConnell today speaking very, very clearly and saying that the president provoked the mob. What is your take on that?
Yeah, I think that's true. And I made that clear last week. I mean, even on that very day, we released a statement that said essentially that, look, the mob has to take responsibility for their own actions. And so does the president. And once again, Glenn, so do all of us. I think all of us, it would just be good for the entire country if everyone kind of toned down their rhetoric, look for something to agree, things we can embrace and be in a positive fashion than what we've seen for the last months, particularly, especially since the election. Yeah, there's no doubt that the president bears some responsibility for really what was an incredibly sad and incredibly unfortunate event that I think is going to be remembered for years in the future.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Let's dig into that a little bit more, though. If he is responsible, where's the accountability? Impeachment, the House did go forward with that. You were a no vote on that. So if impeachment isn't the accountability that he should face, what is?
Well, I mean, look, the reality is we're talking about a president who's, at the time of impeachment, he had less than a week in office. And I think accountability will be history will evaluate him. There certainly will be other methods where they can evaluate what happened in the last month, and we'll be able to know and talk about that. But the impeachment, again, we're talking about impeaching a person who is going to be out of office in a few days. There were no hearings, there were no witnesses, there was no evidence presented. If you want to unite the country, I think that did exactly the opposite, and for no real purpose or no real stated goal to it.
Challenging the election, what role did that play? I want to ask you specifically because I had you on Inside Utah Politics mid-December. At the time, you did point out things that you thought were suspicious and that needed to be looked into. However, you were pretty clear with me in mid-December that you did accept the results of the election. So why did that change in the few weeks that followed?
Yeah, well, and I want to be clear, I continue to be clear with you, Glenn. I never reached any point where I wasn't accepting the election. I never said that I thought that President Trump should be inaugurated on January 20th. I never had that conclusion. I never believed that.
But is that not what a vote to challenge the elections in Pennsylvania is doing?
No, it's just to change. It's just to challenge those specific electors. For example, I voted to accept the electors in Arizona. There was no way by challenging one state's electorals that it would change the election. And by the way, if it would have changed the election, I probably wouldn't have done it. Because I think if you want to have turmoil in our country, try to do that. But there were, just to answer, because I think this is very important, there were such significant discrepancies, such significant questions in the Pennsylvania election that I felt they needed to be answered. And all we were asking for is 10 days, just 10 days to evaluate those. And by the way, the position I took wasn't a fringe position. 75% of Republicans in the House felt the same way. We weren't seeking to overturn the election. We were just trying to find answers on these one particular electorals from this one state.
Representative, let's look forward. What is the path to healing and unity? What are the solutions in your viewpoint?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of them, the solutions, is we've already talked about, and that is people just need to tone down their rhetoric. I mean, for heaven's sakes, in the last few days, you've had some Democrats who've said that, or Republicans, they, did you know I have to go through an electrometer now? I have to go through essentially airport screening to walk on the House floor because they think the Republicans are going to come shoot some of their political opponents. You've had them saying the National Guard can't be trusted. I mean, that type of rhetoric doesn't help. Can't we tone it down just a little bit? And then the second thing is, are there things that we can agree on? Look, my job is to represent my district, to represent the values of my district. In some cases, those are in conflict with our new president. In that case, we will hash those out. But there are other things that I think we can find agreement. The Fairness for All bill that I've been proposing for several years protects the religious liberty, protects LGBTQ minorities. Why can't we work together on that? Infrastructure spending is an area I think that we could find agreement. Our continued policy towards China, I think we're going to have agreement. There's a number of things that we could work with this president on, and I think that would assure the American people that there are areas of common interest and that Washington isn't so broken that there's no hope of ever accomplishing anything anymore.
Okay, we have about 30 seconds left, Representative. The inauguration, that has become a key issue. I know you were planning to go, but circumstances changed that. Just explain that real quick.
Yeah. So I wanted to go. I was planning to go. I felt like it's my responsibility to be there, and I wanted to be there to show this peaceful transfer of power. But unfortunately, I was exposed to COVID a few days ago. Both my wife and I started to have symptoms last night and this morning. I was actually on my way to the airport, and I felt I really shouldn't jump on an airplane until I know for sure. So I got tested this morning, and I'm waiting results. As soon as I'm cleared, I'll head back to D.C. Representative
Stewart, we appreciate your time. A very important conversation as we look to unifying and healing as a country. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for doing it, Glenn. It's an important topic. Thank you.